Welcome back to Pressers by FedNet, where news conferences from the United States Congress become podcast episodes for your listening on your time. House Democratic Caucus Chair Pete Aguilar and Vice Chair Ted Lieu held their regular weekly news conference in the recording studio on July 14. The two focused on Republicans' legislative record, cost of living, incidents in Houston and Maine involving ICE, relations with Israel given a pending amendment to a bill, and future prospects for legislating in the AI space. The following material is protected by copyright.
Good morning. So thankful to be joined with Vice Chair Ted Lieu, as always. As we reconvene this week, one thing remains incredibly clear to us. Republicans in Washington continue to fail the American people. Their conference remains deeply divided. I think they just finished meeting, almost 2 hours. The war in Iran continues to drive up prices at home. Trump is undermining our elections. ICE is out of control, and Republicans have not put forward a single bill to make life more affordable. Unfortunately, this level of chaos and dysfunction has become a hallmark of Republican leadership. Their only significant bill, the Big Ugly Law, was also their cruelest. And 1 year later, Americans across the country are experiencing these consequences. Hardworking people are finding it more difficult to find a doctor when they're sick. They're finding it more difficult to put food on the table, and they're finding it more difficult to survive in this economy. Republicans moved heaven and earth to give billionaires a tax break, but when it came to lowering the grocery bill, Republicans cannot be found. This is a pattern. Republican leadership consistently prioritizes the elites over the working class communities we were elected to serve. Remember, Republicans sent us home from Congress just a couple weeks ago rather than deal with lowering costs, which is a singular issue that people want us to focus on. They haven't just failed their constituents, they are actively making it harder and more expensive for people. And now, 18 months into the majority, Republicans aren't listening to Americans. Instead, what Democrats want to do is tackle the cost of living crisis that Republicans have created. Republicans now continue to look at voter suppression efforts as well as ways to give Trump $350 billion for his Middle East war. Democrats won't stand for it, and when we take the House back, we're going to make life more affordable for people is our singular priority. Vice Chair Ted Lieu.
Thank you, Chairman Aguilar. The inflation numbers for last month came out today. It shows that inflation increased 3.5% year over year. That is lower than it was from 2 months ago, but still an increase and well above the Federal Reserve's preferred target of 2%. That means grocery prices remain elevated. Gas prices remain elevated. Utility costs remain elevated. And what are Trump and Republicans focused on? Putting giant banners of Trump's face all over Washington, D.C., putting Donald Trump's name on airports, putting Trump's signature and face on currency and coins. We ask Trump and Republicans to focus on what the American people want and not on Trump's own narcissism. We just saw 2 additional shootings by ICE agents. One reason this is happening is because Republicans gave ICE a big blank check with no guardrails. We had a shooting in Houston, a shooting in Maine, and based on the publicly available accounts, it appears that ICE agents went after the wrong people. That's not surprising because we saw ICE agents kill 2 U.S. citizens earlier, and ICE agents are not trained the way police officers are trained. ICE agents are not real police officers. They get significantly less training. They do not wear body cameras. They wear masks, and they are an out-of-control rogue agency. And what happened in Houston is particularly egregious because the Department of Homeland Security will not even provide the names and witnesses of the ICE agents at that shooting to the criminal investigation that the Harris County District Attorney opened. You basically now have the federal government obstructing a state criminal investigation. What is the Department of Homeland Security hiding from the American people and hiding from this investigation? We call on them to disclose the witnesses and the ICE agents who are present so that the Harris County DA can do a full and fair investigation. And then let me now conclude on a recent federal court case where a federal judge said that the Trump administration basically sued itself and engaged in collusion, and that this whole scheme was concocted by Department of Justice attorneys. The judge voided the $1.8 billion January 6 slush fund and referred their attorneys to disciplinary proceedings with the state bars. We now have a Department of Justice that is no longer interested in justice. They've now become a full campaign arm of the Trump administration. November is coming.
Questions? Max?
Thanks. We saw today Leader Jeffries put out a dear colleague on the Massey Amendment and the wider U.S. relationship with Israel. He said he'll be opposing the amendment. I know you had mentioned you were going to wait to give your stance. Curious if you want to now take a position on the Massey Amendment and how you're viewing this upcoming vote, of course, if the rule passes.
Yeah, obviously we'll see if the rule passes. I think it's been over 30 days since we passed a rule in this place, so we'll see if this comes up. Obviously, an important and substantive issue. I'll be voting no on the Massey Amendment and no on the underlying bill if it comes up. I strongly believe that we need a change in posture in the region, though, and with the expiration of the MOU and the aid, I think that gives us an opportunity to review what our relationship looks like, understanding that we need a free and fair. We need Israel that believes in free and fair elections. We need to ensure that they have a right to defend themselves, but we also need to do everything we can to have a Palestinian state. And a two-state solution is still what I hold to be the ultimate goal for the region. But it's clear that the Netanyahu administration has done everything they can to isolate Israel. And we need to ensure that we are building more friends in the region, not having fewer. So I'll be a no on the Massey Amendment and a no on the bill. Nick?
I want to ask about the daylight savings bill. Are you going to be supporting that on the floor today?
I'll be supporting the bill on the floor today. This is an issue. We heard some feedback from members as well. I know this is something that passed the Senate by unanimous consent in the past Congress, and we'll see how this vote turns out. I know it was one of multiple bills that Energy and Commerce reported out, but as a standalone bill, I'll be voting for this, but sensitive to people taking different positions for a variety of reasons. Mariana?
I wanted to ask again about the Massey amendments. Obviously led to quite a healthy debate among the House Democrats, and we've seen how opinion on the issue between Israel and Gaza has changed, even within the party. A number of members who are pro-Israel, do want to keep helping Israel, are still considering possibly voting for this, simply also because of political reasons. Back home, a lot of their constituents are saying that there should be changes, and I know that Jeffries laid that out in that letter. Some are concerned that if leaders do vote against this amendment, that could also give another chip to these DSA candidates who are coming in, who are already making demands of leaders and potentially withholding votes for speaker and who knows what else. I mean, are you all thinking about that, and should that even play a part at all in how members are thinking about this vote?
The only thing that crosses our mind is how do we make the best policy? How do we help people in the region? Clearly, there needs to be a change in the relationship moving forward with Israel, and I think that that's incredibly, honest and fair to say that. We're not thinking about what a Democratic candidate is going to say in December after they're sworn in. Like, that's not part of the calculus. This is what should our relationship be? How has it been done in the past? And what do we want it to look like over the next few years, realizing that it's Netanyahu has poisoned the well here. With this relationship, and it's incredibly difficult. And I think Leader Jeffries did a good job in laying out there is both a Gaza humanitarian component to this, there is West Bank settler components, to this. It is a complicated part of the region, and I think our aid in the future should be contingent upon metrics being met, and I think that part of that is, what does the situation look like in Gaza? What is the effect of settler violence? Has that gone down? Is there more accountability? All of those, I think, are incredibly fair, and as the Prime Minister has even said, Israel is wealthy enough to pay for many of the systems that they have that are U.S. made or U.S. Developed, and so that I think should be part of the conversation. But members, I think, from our perspective, from the Vice Chair's perspective, and we wanted to ensure that members had an opportunity to be heard, to share their views to leadership. I thought Rosa DeLauro did a great job in having that conversation and pushing that conversation, and we've tried to do everything we can to give members the space, realizing that members are going to take different positions on this, and I think that that's completely fine.
Can you comment on the response to the parasite, the cyclospora outbreak that's in Michigan and other states right now, particularly in light to cuts to federal public health programs?
We take this incredibly seriously, and we know it is a fact that health employees were doged and were cut, and so fewer resources, fewer people protecting our communities across the HHS spectrum, I think, is a reality. We want people to do everything that they can to protect themselves, and right now the best public health guidance is to wash your fruits and vegetables before you eat them. We'll follow the science and the doctors and ensure that we're doing everything we can to give resources to agencies that protect vital public health.
I wanted to ask you about the Republican reconciliation push. How does this have an effect on appropriations negotiations? And also, if there are real sort of shortfalls in military stockpiles, how do you think Congress should respond to that?
We should have a bipartisan conversation about what those stockpiles are, what the munitions levels are. The administration should be forthcoming with the information that they have. They haven't been. Multiple outlets have reported on that, and they just haven't been honest to Congress, and they haven't included us. The administration wants a up or down vote from Republicans on this. They are not engaging Democrats and talking about what our munitions levels are and what a supplemental would look like. They have chosen this path, and Republicans are clearly wrapped around the axle trying to bend over backwards for the president. To give him what he wants. He has received everything that he's asked for from this Congress. He has said himself that he's the speaker. And so I think Speaker Johnson is playing second fiddle, trying to give Donald Trump everything that he wants. But it's clear his own members are frustrated and upset. They're mad that they weren't invited to special meetings, and they say that they're going to vote against things. I mean, we don't know. Look, we haven't been part of that. But if the administration wants to have a substantive conversation about munitions stockpiles and what we need to protect this country, Democrats are all ears for it. But that's not been where they have landed. Right?
I have a question for Vice Chair Lieu.
Perfect, my favorite.
I understand there's a feedback session for House Democrats to speak with the AI Commission today. Can you provide an update about the AI Commission's work and what you're looking for from members of that session?
Sure. Thank you for that question. Let me first remind people why Leader Jeffries set up this AI Commission in the first place. We looked at what Republicans were doing, and as far as we can tell, Republicans, particularly House Republican leadership, were trying to suppress AI legislation at the federal level. They were trying to suppress AI legislation at the state level and failing twice to do so. And then they were selling high-performance chips to China. That's resulted in a backlash from the American public. It's resulted in harm to our country. And so Leader Jeffries set up this commission to meet with stakeholders, to do site visits, to take input, and to hear from our own caucus members, as well as with academia, civil rights groups, nonprofits, civil society groups, and industry, and to come up with a framework for what would Democrats do after we flip the House this November. And so we're still engaged in that process. We've had prior AI feedback member meetings and feedback sessions. This is another one in the ongoing course, and the commission continues to proceed.
This is also for Vice Chair Lieu. What are your thoughts on the Sunshine Protection Act, and how do you plan to vote today?
So honestly, this is an issue that I don't really walk around thinking about. So I'm going to go do some research, and then we'll let you know. Yeah.
Last one.
DHS is telling ICE agents to end most vehicle stops following the shooting in Maine. What do you make in this change of policy, even if it is only temporary by ICE?
I haven't read that. I haven't read that report, but I think it would make sense given the fact that ICE is completely out of control. And as the vice chair mentioned, these are individuals who aren't trained to do traffic stops. They aren't trained in many of the tactics that they are being asked to conduct. These are folks who don't believe in accountability. And it's not enough to say these shootings are going to be investigated by the Inspector General, or the OIG's office. Look, we haven't had full readouts from the OIGs on prior misconduct. So it's not enough. And when Susan Collins and other House Republicans give blank checks to ICE, this is what is going to happen. This is what we said was going to happen, and it is absolutely transpired. That this is a reckless and lawless agency who doesn't believe in rules or norms, and they are conducting themselves that way, and that's why they're shooting people, some with authorizations, some U.S. citizens, some with authorizations to work in this country. So that's just the reality of where we are, and we welcome many changes that DHS has, but I'm also concerned that many of the changes that they're talking about are probably temporary and just for a month or just for a state where a senator has a tough reelection. These aren't substantive changes, and this isn't real accountability. Real accountability will come when Democrats are in control. Thank you so much.
This program is provided only for informational and educational purposes. Unauthorized reproduction, distribution, or use of this episode without express written permission from FedNet is prohibited. Thanks for listening to this FedNet podcast.